Hi everybody and welcome. This is Cori MacGregor from A Walk in the Park, our full service dog daycare in Maumee, Ohio. If you're here, you may have seen our previous video on barking. Today's video is going to explore digging as we take a look at 10 of the most common behavior problems associated with dogs in this 10 video series. So we are going to explore why dogs dig and what you can do at home to kind of help you solve that issue. Now remember, I said in our first video that there's no such thing as a bad dog. Digging is an extremely normal behavior for a dog. So when your dog is digging, she's just being a dog. So try to keep that in mind the next time you catch your dog digging to china. Now some dogs love to dig. It's really a lot of fun for them. And there are several reasons as to why a dog is going to dig. We talked about with the barking that some dogs are going to have a genetic predisposition to certain behaviors, and with digging that's extremely true for terriers. So if you are a terrier owner, I'm very sorry. You may have a very unique challenge in getting your dog to stop digging in your yard if that's an issue that you're currently experiencing. But we're kind of going to talk about what you can do to decrease, maybe not decrease that behavior, but give your dog an alternate option so that they can continue to enjoy that behavior that comes very naturally to them. And actually they have kind of a strong drive to do it. It's part of their hunting instinct, okay? Another reason that dogs will dig is, again, out of boredom or having a lot of excess energy. Now, destructive behaviors such as digging and chewing, which we're actually going to explore in video number 3 coming up next, that is a sign of having more energy than they're able to exercise. So if you don't get your dog out for regular walks or, games of fetch or, other physically challenging things as well as mentally challenging things, your dog is going to experience boredom and an excess of energy. And typically that is turned into a destructive behavior, such as this one, as digging. Another reason why a dog will dig is to seek comfort. You know that if you are prancing around on the beach on a nice hot day in July, that top layer of sand is nice and hot. But if you settle down in your chair and you bury your toes in the sand, you notice it's much cooler underneath. And that's exactly what your dog is experiencing when they rip up your grass and lay in that dirt. It's a lot cooler in that layer underneath, and that's a reason. That may be a reason why they're digging. So for that one, you might want to look for what the weather is like, how your dog is handling it, and maybe you can provide some other choices for them to be able to cool down on those hot summer days. Another reason is to hide their possessions. If you are in a multi-dog household, you may have 1 or 2 dogs, or maybe all of your dogs, express a certain favor towards some of their toys, especially if there's 1 or 2 toys or a bone that everybody really likes. You might find that your dogs will snatch it, and when they have possession of it, they'll go and they'll bury it in the yard so that they know it's nice and safe the next time they want to use it. So hiding possessions is a very common reason as well. The last reason we're going to kind of explore is trying to escape, of course, and gain access to another area. Now, when we're talking about your dog kind of escaping from your yard, it's not necessarily that they've set up a jailbreak or anything, but more than likely there's something on the other side of that fence that they'd really like to gain access to, maybe an area or another person or another dog. I know from my own experience, if my dog is in the backyard and I go through the gate up to the front yard to do some yard work or gardening or something, she will whine and sometimes try to start digging under the fence there to get to me. So that can be a reason why they would dig. And it may not necessarily be something that is occurring all the time, but it may be something that you see on occasion when your dog is separated from you for whatever reason. They may try to dig their way to you. Okay, so what should you do or what should you not do? You're going to notice over the course of these videos that first thing on the list is always going to be do not yell or punish your dog. If you watched our video on barking, I discussed why punishment can cause fear and anxiety and break down your relationship with your dog. They're going to be reluctant to respond to your directions. They're going to be reluctant to want to interact with you because of that deterioration in the relationship. So fear-based tactics, not that you're necessarily employing them purposefully, but it is kind of in our nature to respond that way. To kind of yell or try to immediately stop something that we see that is happening when we don't want it to be happening. So we kind of have to step outside of our own natural inclination to yell or to punish, and think about more positive ways that we can approach the situation. So please try to remember that yelling and punishing in any way is only going to kind of make matters worse. If your dog is expressing destructive behaviors out of anxiety, yelling and using punishment-based methods are going to only increase that level of anxiety, which can in turn make these behavioral issues you're experiencing worse. So always strive for the most positive methods that you can. You will see long-term benefits. Sometimes we don't always see those benefits immediately as your dog kind of starts to figure out what the new game is, and to put it one way. But the long-term benefits and the long-term effects that you see are definitely worth it. And we should always strive for using the most positive methods that we can. Okay, so the next thing you should do in this process is manage the environment. So take a look at what your dog is actually doing and try to be objective about it. Why can you identify why your dog is digging in the first place? Have they buried those possessions? Are they trying to get to you in the front yard? Are they trying to get to the dog next door, or whatever the case may be? So take a look at why your dog is digging in the first place, and then try to manage your dog's environment accordingly. Maybe you need to, modify your fence so that it's going to be more difficult for them to escape. Maybe that fence needs to be buried into the ground a little bit deeper so that when they're digging, they can't get up and underneath of it because that fencing goes into the ground. And it's, not the easiest option, but it may be something, worth looking into if you determine that is why your dog is digging. You may need to limit access to certain areas, so maybe they can't get right up to that gate. You won't be able to bury the fencing at a gate, obviously, because you need to have access to the gate to get in and out. But maybe your dog is tethered so that they can't get to that gate or actually get to the fence, if you're not able to be in the yard with your dog and supervising them. And that's kind of the next point. So do be sure to supervise your dog. You can only have control over those behaviors if you are present. There's no way that you can address or deal with the situation if it's happened after the fact. It doesn't work. Dogs don't generalize very well. So if they get in trouble for digging a hole that they dug 4 hours ago, they have no idea that they're in trouble for digging that hole 4 hours ago. They may only associate what they've most immediately done, and that could be anything. That could be running up to you out of excitement because you've just arrived home from work, and scolding them or punishing them in some way because you're frustrated over the hole only tells your dog that you're upset at seeing them because they've approached you to greet you coming home from work. So you're kind of breaking down that relationship again, which is why we've said those punishment-based tactics really don't work. They only cause more harm. So be sure to supervise, and do give your dog access to an area where they can dig. So when we talk about limiting access to some of these places where your dog is digging, we're kind of taking away some of that freedom, and we're taking away some of that activity that they really enjoy doing. So a great alternative is offering them a space where it is appropriate for them to continue to do that activity that they love. If you can get a sandbox of some kind, or even put in a dirt patch in a certain area of your yard where you can encourage your dog to dig and kind of guide them toward that place when they want to dig, if they want to bury something or something like that. That's an excellent alternative so that they can still enjoy that activity. And if that activity is something that they enjoy, one that they will engage in frequently, you can bury, treats out there or toys out there and encourage them to find them. And it was a fun scavenger hunt. We talked about playing games with your dog to boost that relationship. And that's one way you can do it. It's also another way to exercise them physically and mentally by offering something like that. So there's a lot of benefits in offering your dog an alternate option for still engaging in what we may consider a behavioral issue or a destructive behavior. Dogs like to kind of destroy things sometimes, honestly. So if we can give them an appropriate outlet for that, we can see a decline in them doing it in inappropriate situations if we're kind of there to guide them through that process. Do boost your relationship in that recall practice to help redirect your dog when they start digging. So if you let your dog out into the backyard and you realize, oh shoot, they've been out there for 20 minutes, they're probably digging away because I wasn't there watching them. If you have a great relationship with your dog, if you've really practiced that recall, playing that little game of chase where you go running up to your dog and then you start running away from your dog and you call them and you get excited to see them when they get to you, that boosts that recall really, really well. So if you peek out the back door and, oh shoot, she's already dug 6 inches into the ground, but you call your dog's name and you call them to you and you get excited to see them when they arrive, it puts an immediate stop to that digging behavior, which is what we're trying to do. And it also redirects their attention onto something else. So they kind of forget about that digging in the wrong spot altogether. So those are some ways that you can, work on that at home. And if you have any other questions or want clarification on any of the information in this video, please give us a call at a walk in the park directly to our facility. And that number is 419-475-4101. You can reach me directly at 419-930-6229. And you can also email me at training@awitp.net. Our next video is going to explore our third behavioral issue, which is chewing. So I hope to see you there. Bye.